Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Okay, today we're heading straight to East Africa.
That's right.
We're unpacking a really significant political moment in Tanzania. Uh, their general election's coming up October 29th.
hmm
17 candidates nominated for president. But here's the thing. Every source we've looked at is calling this the most predictable election in modern history.
Yeah, and that certainty, that predictability is exactly why we need to dig into this. Our mission today isn't just to state the obvious result.
Right.
It's to really analyze the political mechanics behind it. We need to understand the structures that basically guarantee this landslide for President Samia Suluhu Hassan.
And crucially, what does that mean? What does that consolidation of power mean for, multi-party democracy there?
Precisely.
And the numbers being thrown around by analysts, I mean, they're just staggering. Predictions of over 90%.
90%, yes. It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
But even with this foregone conclusion, there's still this undercurrent, isn't there? Reports of civil society planning these symbolic, silent protests on polling day itself.
It really highlights the tension, doesn't it? The ritual of democracy versus the reality of entrenched power. That's the core of our deep dive today.
Okay.
And just for context, I mean, you need to remember, this is Tanzania's 7th general election since they reintroduced multi-party politics, 33 years ago?
Yeah.
And yet, the ruling party, Chama Pinduzi CCM, they have never lost a presidential race since independence, ever.
That's an incredible record of dominance.
It really is.
Okay, so let's get into how that dominance works. The main finding, as you said, is clear. President Samia Suluhu Hassan, she's heading for a massive win, a second, final term. The question in Dar es Salaam isn't if she wins, but, by how much.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that this expected victory, it's not just about her personal popularity, though that's a factor. Fundamentally, it rests on the CCM itself. Our sources consistently describe it as this unrivaled political machine.
A machine?
Yeah, it's organizational depth. It's more like state infrastructure than just a political party. Think of it like the country's nervous system.
Wow, the nervous system.
Reaching every ward, every village, every single neighborhood, it's pervasive.
So when you say machine, it implies this huge imbalance, right? What does that kind of access, that depth in every neighborhood, actually mean for an ordinary Tanzanian?
Yeah.
It's got to be more than just getting votes.
Oh, absolutely. That's the critical point. It's why the sources talk about decades of patronage.
Oh, okay.
This deep reach means the state, through its, regional commissioners, district executives, they essentially ensure that patronage flows, that resources are allocated in line with party priorities.
So the administrators are basically campaign coordinators.
Well, political analyst Monedi Masami actually makes a nuanced point there. She says their role is maybe less coordinative and more fundamentally supportive.
Supportive.
Yeah, it reflects that blurred line between the state and the party. It's very hard to separate them. If you're, say, a local business owner or you want a government job, your prospects are tied to the ruling party's success. It's just the reality.
And that institutional alignment, that blurring, it extends right up to the election body itself.
Yes. The Independent National Electoral Commission, well, nominally it's autonomous.
Anomaly.
But it's widely seen as being sympathetic to the ruling establishment. So you put that together, the administrative control, the resource access, the deep party structure, the sympathetic electoral body.
It makes it almost impossible for a challenger.
Pretty much impossible, yeah. Observers agree on that.
Okay, so the CCM's strength is one side of the coin. What's the other?
Well, the other side, and maybe the defining feature of this election cycle, is the collapse of the opposition front.
The collapse.
A near total collapse. And that's what raises the real risk, of the country kind of sliding back towards one-party dominance, just maybe with a democratic facade.
And that starts with Chadema, right? They were the main opposition force on the mainland, the ones with real grassroots power.
They were, but they've made a strategic choice. They're boycotting this election entirely.
Under the slogan, no reforms, no election.
Exactly. So by doing that, they've removed the only party that really had the structure and the mobilization power to mount a serious challenge.
And that boycott, that strategic silence, it's amplified because their main leader isn't even really in the picture.
That's right. Tundu Lissu, their figurehead.
Yeah.
He's completely sidelined. He's actually behind bars right now.
Behind bars.
Yeah, facing old treason charges. He's attending court sessions in Dar es Salaam. His situation, his trial, it's not just legal, it sends a powerful message.
A chilling message, maybe.
You could say that. It reminds everyone of the potential risks of, well, strong opposition. So his absence leaves this huge void.
Yeah.
The opposition's voice is reduced to, whispers online, not rallies.
And then there was another blow, wasn't there? To the second biggest group, ACT Wazalendo.
Yes, another major setback. ACT Wazalendo, they're a relatively younger party, more social democratic. Their presidential candidate was Luhaga Mpina. He's actually a former minister who defected from the CCM, which was quite a big deal.
Right.
But he was disqualified, and the High Court just upheld that disqualification. So that really slammed the door shut on any remaining chance of, meaningful competition at the presidential level.
So who's left? We started by saying 17 candidates.
16 others, yes.
Oh.
But our sources describe them as, well, virtually invisible.
Invisible.
Yeah. Lacking funds, lacking organizational structure, lacking any real national recognition or resonance. They exist mostly on the ballot paper.
So no real challenge there.
It seems extremely unlikely. The nearest challenger probably won't even get 3% of the vote.
And you need 5% for government funding, right?
Exactly. 5% is the threshold to qualify for those crucial state subsidies that help parties operate. So yeah, the ballot paper looks crowded, but the actual race, it's almost non-existent.
Okay, the structure guarantees the outcome. But let's talk about President Samia herself. Her dominance, it's complex, isn't it? It's not just the CCM machine and sidelining the opposition.
No, it's not. Her personal story is important here. Remember, she came into office in March 2021 after President Magufuli died suddenly.
Right, unexpectedly.
And initially the perception was, maybe she's just a caretaker, someone to see out the term.
But she didn't act like one.
Not at all. She very quickly moved to defy that label. She successfully repositioned herself as a reformist, a conciliator. Her priorities seemed to be lowering the political temperature immediately.
And she took concrete steps, didn't she?
Oh, yes. Her early moves were very symbolic, but also very effective. They resonated.
Like reopening those banned newspapers, Malio and Wanahalisi.
Exactly. Reopening media, freeing some political detainees, crucially, inviting opposition leaders for actual dialogue. These were signals.
Signals that things were changing.
Precisely. There's a great quote from a lawyer, Dr. Kisinza Leonard, who said something like, President Samia brought back the language of civility. She calmed a nation that had been shouting at itself.
That captures it well. A return to dialogue.
It really does. It was a stark contrast to the atmosphere under Magufuli.
And economically, too, she shifted things.
Right.
Kept the infrastructure focused, but changed the tone.
Absolutely. She maintained that big infrastructure, drive roads, rail, energy that Magufuli started, but she replaced his sometimes quite combative nationalist rhetoric with a much more measured, investor-friendly approach to governance.
Which the business community liked.
They loved it. It created this image of continuity with compassion that resonated strongly with business leaders, the urban middle class.
And internationally as well. I remember reading about the Tanzania Vision 2050 plan.
Yes, that plan emphasizes diversifying the economy, manufacturing, renewables, digital tech. And crucially, her approach won massive international praise almost overnight. The World Bank, the IMF, they publicly applauded her fiscal discipline, her policy stability. Tanzania quickly went from being somewhat strained internationally to being seen as a darling of those institutions.
Okay, so she's popular, the machine is strong, the opposition is weak, the result seems inevitable. But what are the consequences of everyone knowing the result is inevitable? How's the public reacting?
Yeah, that's where it gets complicated again. There's definitely a sense of disillusionment, especially among younger Tanzanians.
Who are a huge part of the electorate.
A massive part. Nearly 2/3 of voters are young. And our sources consistently pick up on this dissatisfaction, this feeling that, elections don't really change much in their day-to-day lives when there's no real choice.
Faith in the whole process starts to fade.
Exactly. It erodes that democratic legitimacy.
And this might actually affect turnout on polling day. You mentioned the silent protests.
Yes. Civil society groups, online activists, they predict turnout could plummet, maybe even below 50%.
Which would be a historic low.
One of the lowest, certainly. And Chadema, along with other activists, they've explicitly called for these silent protests, basically, urging people to stay home.
As a symbolic rejection, calling it a staged election.
That's the language they're using. Low turnout, even with a huge win percentage, is significant. It subtly undermines the winner's mandate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes some of the shine off.
Definitely. However, That landslide win, whatever the turnout, it still gives Samia enormous leverage, especially inside the CCM.
Ah, within the party structure itself.
Yes. That level of authority, confirmed by a huge electoral margin, lets her manage internal factions, shape the debate about who comes after her in 2030, and really solidify her control over the party apparatus.
So what does that mean for her second term? What's the agenda, the legacy she wants to build with this huge, predictable mandate?
Well, according to insiders we've seen quoted, the plan for the second term seems very technocratic.
Technocratic.
Yeah.
Meaning,
Meaning less focus on the political drama, more on the nuts and bolts of economic modernization. Things like ensuring energy security that's absolutely vital for industrial growth and making the public sector more efficient. Samia knows her legacy ultimately has to be built on delivering economic progress.
what about internationally? How does she manage that? A big win, but questions about the process.
It's a balancing act. Hamisa Halim had a good point on this. Foreign policy will likely continue this careful strategy.
Balancing what?
Balancing deep economic ties with partners like China and India while still courting Western investment and aid. Western partners appreciate the stability she brings, but
But they're uneasy about the politics.
exactly. They'll keep providing support, but there's discomfort about the shrinking political space. They'll point to things like Leishu's situation, those allegations of enforced disappearances that still linger, the slow pace of judicial reform.
So the reformist image could take a hit?
It could. An election seen as fundamentally unfair, even if predictable, could erode some of that international goodwill she worked so hard to rebuild. She'll also likely continue Tanzania's role in quiet regional diplomacy, Great Lakes, Mozambique. And of course, women's empowerment will remain central to her platform, her identity as the first female head of state.
Okay, so wrapping this up. It seems the election itself is more of a confirmation than a contest.
Absolutely. You could call it an exercise in affirmation, a ritual of continuity, really. It secures the CCM's hold-on power for another 5 years. That part isn't in doubt.
Which brings us back to that core question about her legacy, this huge, inevitable win. It gives her immense power, real moral authority within the system if she wants to use it.
Right. She could use it to push for deeper reforms. Things like genuinely strengthening institutions, tackling corruption more forcefully, maybe even reforming the electoral system to restore some public faith before 2030.
Or she could just use it to consolidate power further.
And that's the final thought, really, for you, the listener, to consider. The 2025 election will define Samia's legacy. With risk essentially removed, what does she choose? Does she leverage this massive mandate to actually democratize Tanzania's political system, maybe make the next election a genuine contest?
Or does she use it simply to entrench the CCM's dominance even more deeply?
And what does democracy even mean when that core element of real choice seems to have been systematically taken off the table?
A really vital question, not just for Tanzania, but for anyone watching democratic trends globally. Okay, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.